First contact. The arrival asterisk in the quiet sky above Earth. A strange object floated. It was not a plane. It was not a satellite. It was an alien ship. The ship belonged to the Galactic Research Union, a group of alien scientists who traveled from planet to planet. They studied different species and their behavior. This time, their mission was Earth. Inside the ship, a young alien woman named Zyra stood near a large screen. She had blue skin, silver eyes, and soft glowing hair. She was intelligent, curious, and serious about rules. She believed in peace, order, and logic. Planet 213b, also known as Earth, she said, reading from her digital pad. Another alien beside her smiled. This species is strange. They are not the smartest, but they have something we don't. Zyra raised an eyebrow. What is that? Fun, he replied. Humans live for fun. Zyra frowned. That's dangerous. Fun often leads to chaos. The ship slowly entered Earth's atmosphere. They stayed invisible to human eyes. From the skies, they watched humans in their daily lives. A video came up on the screen. It showed a group of people running. They were wearing sports clothes and sweating. Are they in danger? Zyra asked. No, replied the other alien. They call it jogging. They do it to stay fit. They call it exercise. Zyra's eyes widened. They run, for fun. Yes, that's illegal in most planets. Running without threat is considered self-torture. Zyra was shocked. I must investigate this personally, she said. Soon. She left the ship in a small invisible pod and landed in a park on Earth. She used a disguise device to look human. Light brown skin, black hair, and jeans with a hoodie. She walked among the humans. She saw children laughing as they chased each other. She saw old people doing yoga. She saw teenagers riding bikes very fast. What kind of madness is this? She whispered. Then she saw a big crowd near a building. They were shouting, cheering, and clapping. Curious. She walked closer. A large sign said, Amateur Boxing Tournament. Free entry, boxing. She read aloud. She entered the building. Inside, two men were fighting in a ring. They punched each other hard. The crowd was loud and excited. Some people even smiled as the fighters hit each other. Zyra gasped. They hurt each other. And enjoy it. A man next to her yelled, knock him out. Come on. Zyra was frozen. Her heart pounded. Her mind could not understand. This is pure violence, she thought, but no one is stopping it. She turned on her secret translator and listened to two women talking beside her. Did you see that punch? That was epic. One woman said, I know, right? My brother loves this stuff. The other replied, he says pain builds character. Zyra nearly dropped her device. Pain builds character. Her head felt dizzy. She slowly walked out of the building, shocked and confused. I need to go back, she said. Back on the ship, she removed her disguise and entered the control room. Her commander Zarn waited for her. Well, he asked, what did you observe? Zyra sat down, still processing what she saw. They run for no reason, she began. They fight each other. With joy. They scream in fear and call it fun. Children roll in the dirt. Teenagers jump from great heights into water. They do things just to feel something strange. Zahn nodded. Yes, humans seek fun, even if it hurts, scares, or tires them. Fascinating, isn't it? No, Zyra said. It's terrifying. On my home planet, all forms of pain-related activities are banned. Zarn smiled. But here, pain is sometimes called passion. Fear is called thrill. Chaos is called adventure. Zyra looked at the screen again. A video played of humans dancing wildly at a music festival. I don't understand, she whispered. They call this entertainment, Zahn replied. That's why Earth is unique. They are not the most advanced, but their love for feeling alive makes them special. Zyra crossed her arms. It still feels wrong. Zarn leaned closer. Then find out why it feels right to them. Learn not just what they do, but why they do it. We need your full report by the end of the week. Zyra looked at the screen one more time. A young boy was laughing after falling during a game. He had a scraped knee, but he smiled. That's illegal. Zyra muttered again, but deep inside her heart, for the first time, she was curious. Zyra stood in front of the wide glass window of the alien ship, staring at the blue planet below, thinking deeply about what she had seen on Earth, wondering how a species could enjoy activities that caused them pain or fear, or even danger, while the rest of the galaxy avoided these feelings at all cost. Her hands were cold, as if her body knew something. Her mind refused to accept. A part of her wanted to understand the humans more, not just from the screen but up close where the real action happened. Where they laughed and screamed and cheered without shame or control. She turned to her commander, Zarin, who was quietly watching the human newsfeed, showing a man jumping off a tall bridge with a rope tied to his feet. Humans called it bungee jumping, and they paid money to do it again. And again Zarin looked at her with interest, and asked if she was ready to observe more, and this time without hiding behind a screen or a scanner. And Zaira nodded with a serious face, because inside her heart, a strange feeling had started to grow, something between fear and fascination, something she could not name. She left the ship again using her disguise device, and landed near a large stadium. Filled with humans of all sizes and ages, shouting in excitement. Some wore colorful clothes and waved flags, while others had painted faces and drums beating. Fast, a loud voice came from the speakers calling out teams, and the game began with a round object being kicked across the field by fast-moving players, who chased it like it was treasure, risking injury, diving headfirst, clashing and falling, only to rise again with determination. Sure sat among the crowd, her translator, picking up words like goal and penalty and offside, and she tried to understand why humans screamed in joy or shouted in anger over a ball being kicked into a net. A child beside her laughed and shouted go go go, while his grandmother clapped her hands and cheered louder than anyone around, and Zaira felt the sound inside her chest like thunder, not of war, but of passion, a force strong and strange. She whispered into her recorder, humans show love through noise and connection, even when the activity is rough or risky. They smile even after falling, they support even when their team loses, and that is not logic. That is emotion. In motion. After the game ended, she walked to a nearby school where children were playing during break. Some jumped rope. Others played tag, while a group built sandcastles and threw mud at each other without shame. She approached a small group of children who were spinning fast in a circle, laughing until they fell dizzy and rolled on the grass giggling. And when she asked why they did it, they replied, because it's fun, and we like the feeling of flying even if we fall. One boy had a scrape on his knee, and Zaira offered him a healing patch from her pocket, but he shook his head and said, no thanks, this is my warrior mark, and my mom says every scar has a story, and stories are kushi. Recorded the moment in her log. Children of Earth view injury as memory, not failure. They connect pain with play and do not fear it the way most species do. They use it to grow, to share, to celebrate. Back on her ship, she shared her findings with the team, who listened in silence as she described children running without goal, teenagers skateboarding off ramps, and elders dancing in parks with no purpose but joy. Her fellow scientists were confused, some even disturbed, but one older alien named Varn said, maybe we are missing something. Maybe humans have learned to make pain useful. Maybe fun is not about avoiding danger, but facing it with a smile. On asked Zaira to continue her study and dive deeper into human culture, especially mental games, since physical activity had its limits, but the mind of humans was even more mysterious and unpredictable. Before leaving the control room, Zaira watched a video of a man laughing while climbing a mountain in the rain, slipping twice but never giving up, and she wrote in her journal, humans laugh, not because things are easy, but because they are hard and worth it. She closed her device and prepared her next visit, choosing a place where human minds battled without fists or fear, a place where imagination ruled and fun was found in pixels and pressure and impossible missions. She looked at the glowing planet once more and whispered to herself, they are not just strange, they are brave, and maybe that is the key to their joy. Maybe pain is not the enemy, but the teacher they welcome. With that thought, she stepped into her pod, ready to explore the world of human gaming and fun of the mind with new eyes and a growing question in her heart. What if humans are not wrong at all? What if we are the ones who forgot how to feel alive? Zaira adjusted her disguise, once again stepping into the world of humans with a quiet sense of curiosity this time. Not just as an observer, but as a participant, someone ready to feel what they feel, to do what they do, and maybe to understand what they call fun. The pod dropped her near a place humans called a theme park, full of color, noise, movement, and smell. Everything loud, everything bright, everything alive, unlike anything she had seen in her logical, structured planet, where silence was peace and order was sacred. She passed through the gate holding a paper ticket, a strange thing humans used for entry, while lights blinked above her and mechanical machines roared with sound, carrying people high into the sky and dropping them with screams that echoed through the air. Her eyes focused on a huge ride they called a roller coaster, a metal beast of loops and tracks where humans willingly sat and let themselves be thrown around while laughing and crying at the same time. And Zaira felt her chest tighten with confusion and interest. A group of teenagers laughed as they got in line, joking about how scared they were last time, and how much fun it was to feel like flying and falling at once. And Zyra joined the line with careful steps, her mind telling her this was not safe, but her mission pushing her forward. When the moment came, and she sat in the cart, locking the safety bar over her chest, her hands gripping tightly as the machine began to move, slowly climbing upward, with clicks that grew faster and faster, until the top arrived, and then everything dropped. Wind rushed into her face. Her body lifted off the seat, and her voice escaped without her control, not in fear, but in something else, something wild and strange, and sharp, like a scream and a laugh at the same time, and her eyes watered from speed, but she did not close them. The ride ended, and she stepped out dizzy and breathless, but still standing, and for a second, she smiled, without knowing she did it, and then looked around to see others laughing, holding each other, talking about the next ride, as if they had just won a battle together. She recorded her thoughts quietly. Humans willingly face fear to taste freedom. Their fun is not about safety, but about testing limits together. Their joy comes from shared risk and survival. Still unsure of her feelings, she wandered into a darker section of the park, where humans lined up outside a haunted house. A place designed to scare them, on purpose, filled with creatures of fiction and sudden noises meant to shock. Her logic said no, her mission said yes, and so she entered the place, walking through narrow halls filled with shadows and cold air, hearing footsteps behind her, even when no one was there, and seeing eyes glow in corners that should be empty. Something jumped from the wall, a creature with sharp teeth and glowing red eyes, and Zyra jumped back with a shout, her heart racing and her breath shaking, and yet the people ahead laughed and clapped, calling it awesome and perfect. She walked faster, bumping into a mirror that showed her real alien form for a second, before turning back to human reflection, and she blinked, unsure if the house did that or if she was simply overwhelmed by emotion she could not process. When she finally stepped outside, the night air felt warm and safe, and she sat on a bench nearby, watching others exit the haunted house with wide eyes and big smiles, some holding hands, some pretending not to be scared, but all of them somehow happier than before. She spoke softly into her recorder. Humans create fear in safe places, to control it, to explore it, to laugh in the face of it. Fun is their weapon against the unknown, and even in darkness, they find light. Before returning to the ship, she saw a small game booth where people threw rings over bottles or tried to shoot water at targets and win prizes, and she decided to try her hand at one, picking up a small plastic gun and aiming with focus. She missed the first few shots, but then won a soft toy, a smiling green frog, and the human behind the counter said "Great job" in a cheerful voice, and Zyra felt something new, something proud and simple and warm in her chest. Back on the ship, she placed the toy on her desk beside her, glowing tools and research devices, and it looked strange there, but also perfect, like a tiny piece of Earth had followed her home, and now lived among the Starsharn. Entered the room, asking how the experience was, and she paused before answering, saying only this: "It was chaos. It was loud. It was scary, and I think I want to go back." He nodded without judgment, and walked away, leaving her alone with her thoughts, her questions, and her soft green frog, who sat there smiling like he knew something she didn't. She picked up her journal and wrote, "Humans chase emotions like we chase knowledge. They learn not from stillness, but from storms, and sometimes the only way to feel alive is to scream on purpose and laugh afterward." With that, she looked at the screen, showing Earth once more, glowing blue and bright, and whispered, "Maybe fun is not a mistake. Maybe it's the missing piece." Asterisk. The light from Earth's screen flickered across Zyra's face as she sat quietly inside the observation room, staring at a new mystery, one that did not involve running or screaming or falling, but instead involved humans sitting in silence, with glowing eyes, fingers moving fast across strange devices, voices rising and falling as they shouted into small machines and celebrated victories. Only they could sit. Was not dancing, it was not climbing, it was not flying, and yet it pulled them in like a powerful force. And Zyra wanted to know why humans stared into flat screens for hours, fighting monsters, solving puzzles, and building cities that did not exist in the real world. Stan handed her a report called Competitive Gaming, or as humans named it esports, and said it was the next focus of her research, because it combined mind, skill, emotion, and fun in a way most alien worlds could not understand or match. She accepted the assignment without a word, knowing that Earth's way of fun had already started changing something inside her, and she needed to feel it, to know it, to truly understand the storm behind their smiles. Her disguise was updated with a more casual look. A hoodie with a fictional dragon on the back, and jeans with rips that served no purpose but style, and she arrived at a crowded event center with giant banners flashing names of human champions and digital worlds that seemed more real than reality. She stepped inside, and the noise hit her like a wave. 1,000 humans, cheering for players. Sitting on a stage with headphones and keyboards. Focused like warriors, using no weapons but logic, speed, and instinct as they fought in worlds made of light and code. The screen above showed a battle unfolding between two teams, each trying to protect a glowing base while controlling strange characters with powers and voices, and the crowd exploded as one team made a perfect move, destroying the other with skill and timing. Kira's eyes scanned the scene, and she found herself leaning forward, studying every movement, every shout, every gesture, as if it were a ritual of power and unity that no alien society had ever dared to imagine. She whispered into her recorder, humans create fun from nothing. They turn zeros and ones into worlds. They turn thought into thrill and make dreams into sport. She signed up for a local gaming booth where anyone could try a game against other players, and she sat nervously in front of the screen, gripping the controller, feeling a strange mix of calm and pressure as the game loaded and placed her in a strange world filled with robots and explosions. At first she lost quickly, unfamiliar with the controls and pace, but her brain adapted fast, using alien reflexes and training to learn patterns, to master aim, to predict moves before they happened. And soon she began winning match after match without blinking. Humans nearby noticed her skill, some clapping, others challenging her with curiosity, and she kept playing, her hands moving faster than she thought possible, her eyes locked onto the screen, like it held the secret to the universe. One young human stepped forward, smiling with confidence, and said, "You're good, want a real match?" And Zyra nodded, feeling a strange fire in her chest, a mix of fear and joy and competition, and she accepted the challenge without a single word. The game began, and the room went quiet as their battle unfolded in the digital space. Her alien mind clashing with his human instinct, each move matched with a counter, each second sharper than the last, and the crowd grew louder as they watched this unexpected duel. Then something happened. Her hand slipped for just one moment, and the human player seized the chance, striking hard and fast and winning the match with a final move that made the crowd rise and cheer. Syrah smiled and extended her hand. The human laughed and shook it, saying, "You're not from around here, are you?" And she paused, unsure what to say, then replied, "Maybe not, but I really liked the game." A nearby streamer had recorded the whole match, and soon the video spread online, showing a mysterious new player with strange skill and silent focus, who came from nowhere and almost beat a rising champion in his own game. Back on the ship, Zarn showed her the video, already trending with titles like Alien Gamer or Mystery Challenger, and asked what she had learned, and she replied, "Humans turn imagination into purpose. They find meaning in fiction. They compete for honor, even when the war is only pixels and sound." He looked at her long, and then asked, "Did you enjoy it?" And she hesitated before saying, "I think I did, and I want to try again." She sat alone in her room that night, watching replays of games played across the world, games that needed no real weapons, no real danger, but still made hearts race and hands sweat and voices rise in passion. She held the controller in her hands and whispered to herself, "This is not just a game, this is a new way to be alive, and maybe that is what makes humans so different. They do not wait for fun, they create it, and then they share it with the world." The stars outside the ship pulsed with silent warning as Zyra stood in front of the High Council chamber, her hands behind her back, her face calm, but her thoughts racing like fire through her mind, because the message from the Central Alliance had been clear. Her behavior was under review, and her mission had crossed boundaries. No field agent should cross inside the chamber. The air was heavy with judgment. The council sat in a circle, their long robes glowing faintly with the blue light of the law, their faces unreadable, their voices slow and measured, as they listed her actions, her choices, her violations of research code, and emotional neutrality. They spoke of her time on Earth, not as a study but as something else, as an indulgence, a personal journey that now risked the entire galactic research union's objectivity and reputation. And though she stood silent, her heart beat like thunder against her chest. Councillor Naren, the oldest among them, leaned forward, her voice as cold as space itself, asking Zyra if she could still claim she was observing Earth with scientific distance, after being seen in a human broadcast, after competing in a public tournament, after showing what they called joy. Zyra raised her head and spoke, with strength not defiance, explaining that humans were not what they seemed, not just chaotic or primitive or wild, but something more, something that touched a part of existence the council had long forgotten, or maybe never understood. She spoke of laughter that came after fear, of unity, built in games, of strength, born in softness, and of pain that did not break them, but shaped them into something greater than survival. And she said, maybe Fun was not the opposite of order, maybe it was another kind of truth. The chamber fell silent, and then came the voice of Counselor Avin, who reminded her that many species had been banned from interaction, after causing emotional contagion, after inspiring rebellion through uncontrolled passion, and he asked if humans were now a threat of similar scalax. Did not answer with fear, she answered with images, projecting them into the air for all to see, scenes she had recorded with care and wonder. Children running without destination just to feel the wind, adults dancing with strangers because music told them to, humans building stories in digital realms, and treating those victories like real ones, because feeling was real even when the world was imagined. She showed them a man helping a stranger after a fall during a race, posing his own goal to lift another, and a woman who played games every weekend, not to win but to laugh with her friends. Because laughter was its own kind of victory, and she said these were not threats, these were invitations. Council watched the memories unfold, and for a moment they did not speak. Then Counselor Naren said perhaps one final test was required. Perhaps Zyra should present the ultimate human expression of fun, not in parts but whole, something that represented their spirit entirely, something that would decide Earth's place in the galactic order once and for all. Alzira bowed her head and accepted, knowing she had one chance to show the Council that joy was not chaos, that emotion was not danger, that fun was not foolishness but life itself, wearing different clothes back on her ship. She called the human contacts she had made, the gamer who had beaten her, the children who had laughed with her, the athletes and dancers and storytellers, and she explained her idea with honesty and hope, asking for help to create something never seen before. Not even on Earth. Together they began to plan a festival, one that would bring humans of every kind into one place, where no one would be better than another. Every activity would be shared, from simple games to music, from food to costumes, from digital challenges to physical feats, all bound by one rule, that joy must be shared. The site was chosen, a vast park, filled with green and sky, and space, and technology was used to invite alien observers from nearby systems, granting them safe passage and temporary disguise, so they could blend in and watch without fear. Zyra worked with tireless focus, building a bridge between two worlds that had never truly met. And as the days passed, she felt something rising inside her, not stress, not doubt, but something light and strong like gravity had loosened its grip, and she was floating without fear. The day of the festival arrived, and Earth opened its arms, not with flags or weapons or speeches, but with music and laughter, and the smell of spices and sweets, and the sight of people moving like colors across the grass, dancing, playing, running, jumping, sharing every moment like it mattered more than time itself. Aliens stood among them, wide-eyed and silent at first, then smiling, then moving, then playing, too unsure if it was allowed but unable to resist. And Zyra watched as fear melted into joy, and difference became curiosity, and then friendship. From a distance the Council observed every heartbeat, every sound, every gesture, and they said nothing at first, but inside their silence something ancient began to shift, something slow and powerful, and perhaps a little scared of what it meant to feel so much all at once. The sun rose gently above the hills, casting soft golden light across the wide open field where colors danced in the early wind, and where laughter would soon fill the air, not from one voice or one species, but from many. For today was not a normal day on Earth, it was something more, something bold, something never done before. Zyra stood at the edge of the festival grounds, watching the final preparations unfold as humans placed signs and carried equipment and painted faces with bright streaks, while drones floated overhead, recording every detail to share with the Galactic Research Union and beyond. Beneath her disguise, her heart pulsed with excitement and fear, tangled like vines twisting around her thoughts, because today was her idea, her risk, her dream, and if it failed, then Earth would be closed to the stars, forever marked as too wild, too strange, too emotional to be trusted. She walked slowly through the paths where food stalls were setting up, and smells from every corner of Earth blended into something rich and new, spiced steam rising from boiling pots, sweet sugar melting into air-fried dough, sizzling under human hands. Each booth a memory, a culture, a story wrapped in flavor. Near the center of the field, humans gathered around large digital screens, setting up a global gaming tournament, where people from across the planet could join through virtual space. Their avatars ready to run, fly, build, fight, all for the joy of playing together. And not just to win. In another corner, musicians tuned strange instruments, some from Earth, some from far worlds, brought by curious travelers who had heard whispers of a planet where joy was celebrated like ceremony, where fun was treated as sacred as breath itself. The first guests from other planets arrived quietly, their forms hidden by technology that made them look human, but their eyes wide with wonder as they stepped into the festival grounds, feeling the beat of drums in their bones, and the rhythm of joy in their steps. Children ran past them without fear, offering candy and stickers and invitations to play, and the aliens hesitated only for a second before accepting, laughing in voices that sounded like wind and water and stars. Collating Sierra watched as a tall figure approached the climbing wall, unsure of how it worked, until a young girl showed him how to grip and pull and reach. And when he slipped and landed safely on the soft padding, they both laughed and high-fived, and the watchers began to smile. The council observed everything from their orbiting ship, silent and unmoving, but their data streams filled with strange spikes. Joy, confusion, interest, recognition, emotions they had not felt in centuries. Emotions they once thought dangerous, now blooming across their screens like light through cracks in stone near the stage. A group of dancers performed a mix of styles from hip-hop to traditional movements, blending beats and histories into something alive and real, and as the music rose, so did the crowd, their bodies moving without shame, without rules, only rhythm. Even the aliens began to sway slowly at first, then faster, matching steps and claps, laughing when they stumbled, trying again when they failed, learning that fun was not about perfection, but about presence. Sexura climbed the stage, holding a small translator orb in her hand, her voice broadcast across the field and into the council's ship as she spoke, not with science, not with data, but with truth born of experience and courage. She said, today is not just about games or music or color, it is about what makes us all the same under different skins and skies. The desire to feel alive, to share joy, to forget fear and remember wonder. She said, fun is not chaos, fun is a choice. And in that choice, we find hope, connection, peace, because when we laugh together, we stop being strangers, we become something new, something better. The crowd clapped and cheered, not because they were told to, but because they believed it, and the energy lifted into the air, carried by song and scent and story, and the council could not look away, could not deny the reality before them. Small alien child held hands with a human boy, and they both shouted as they raced through the obstacle course, cheering each other over hurdles, through tunnels, into foam pits, rising dirty and victorious with smiles too wide for words. Odor beings sat under trees, exchanging stories with translators, humming softly while humans offered tea and fruit and handmade gifts, their faces open, their hearts unguarded, their fun not loud now but deep and still. And warm night fell slowly, and the field lit up with glowing lights, drones creating shapes in the sky, fireworks bursting without sound above, and the stars seemed closer, as if they too were watching and smiling. Quiet Lixira stood beside her family. She had never met eating something sweet and sticky, and she closed her eyes for a moment, breathing it all in, knowing this was more than data, more than a mission. This was a turning point, not just for Earth, but for all who watched above the planet. The council remained silent, but inside their chamber, the lights shifted color, not red for danger, not blue for neutrality, but gold for understanding, and green for approval, and Zyra saw it on her wrist device, glowing softly like a quiet yes. The festival continued long into the night, laughter never fading, games never stopping, in music never growing tired, and for the first time in many lives, many beings believed that fun was not a risk, it was a bridge. The stars watched in silence as the final data streamed into the Galactic Council's archive, every sound, every cheer, every tear recorded and analyzed, and still it was not enough to explain the feeling that had spread across their minds like sunlight in a frozen room, something warm, something forgotten, something real. Exura stood once again inside the great chamber, now brighter than before, with lights pulsing gently across the curved walls where ancient decisions had shaped the fate of countless worlds, and her voice no longer trembled as she stepped forward, wearing the same disguise she had worn on Earth, not because she had to, but because she chose to. A sign that she had brought more than knowledge back with her. The council sat quiet, their eyes not judging, but searching, trying to find words that matched the thoughts growing slowly in their minds, like seeds touched by water and time. And Zyra gave them no charts, no numbers, only truth spoken clearly. In the simplest way she had learned from the humans, she now missed more than she expected. She said, you asked if humans are a threat, and I say they are, but not in the way you think they are. A threat to fear, a threat to silence, a threat to control that keeps us from ever feeling something that matters. She said, humans are broken in many ways, but they choose joy again and again. They fall and cry and argue and fight, but still they find ways to laugh, to build, to play, to connect, and that is not weakness, that is strength. The council listened with eyes half closed as her voice rose gently like music, not loud, not proud, but steady, filled with memory of paint-stained fingers and children dancing in mud, of elders clapping to rhythms they had never heard before, of strangers becoming friends through games without winners and stories without end. One Counselor asked if it was true that even beings from other systems had joined the festival, had removed their masks, and danced and laughed, and Zyra confirmed it, with a soft smile, saying they did not understand every word, but they understood the feeling. And they asked if they could stay just a little longer. The chamber fell still for a moment, not in coldness, but in awe, and then the final vote was cast not through speeches, but through color: green for peace, gold for approval, white for celebration, and the chamber lit. Like a new dawn washing over Zyra, like the first breath after deep sleep, Earth had been accepted not just as a study zone, not just as a curiosity, but as a beacon, a living library, a feeling, a place where logic and emotion could walk together without shame, where fun could be studied, celebrated, shared, and spread across the stars as reward for her service. Zyra was offered a position no one had held before: ambassador of experiential culture, a role created not from tradition, but from transformation, and she accepted not for pride, but because her work was not finished, not even closed back on Earth. The news came quietly at first, through strange signals decoded by amateur astronomers, through messages hidden in auroras and music patterns, through dreams and stories whispered by children who claimed they saw stars winking at them differently that night. Then the world gathered again, not in fear, but in joy, welcoming their new friends. Not with ceremonies, but with open fields, and food, and music, and laughter, and the aliens who returned brought gifts not of gold or weapons, but of games and stories and dances from their own forgotten corners of the galaxy's era. Stood once more on the green hills, watching old and new species try to play tag, some too fast, some too slow, all laughing anyway, and she felt the deep pull of connection, stronger than any law, stronger than any machine, stronger than anything she had ever learned in books or training. She walked through the park, her hands brushing against strange fur and glowing scales, her ears filled with new languages and old jokes, her eyes catching the beauty in chaos, the art in imperfection, the sacred rhythm of fun that did not ask for permission to exist. She paused near the roller coaster, where a young alien argued with a human about who screamed louder, and she smiled, remembering her own first ride, and how she too had been afraid, and how that fear had opened something inside her that no simulation ever could. That night, as fireworks lit the sky again, now in shapes of many worlds connected by ribbons of light, Zyra sat with Zahn, who had quietly joined the mission, again not as a commander, but as a learner, watching her with quiet pride. He asked her what comes next, and she said, "We teach them what we know, and they teach us how to feel, and maybe someday every world will have its own festival, not to celebrate power or logic, but joy itself. Because fun is not human, fun is not alien, fun is universal." He nodded slowly and looked at the stars, which no longer felt so far, and whispered, "Maybe we were always meant to learn this lesson, not through books, not through numbers, but through a scream on a ride. A laugh shared in the rain, a game played without fear." And so the stars kept turning, the galaxies kept spinning, and the beings of 1,000 systems found themselves dancing, not in silence, not in fear, but in rhythm together. Because in the end, it was never just about study or safety, it was about remembering how to be alive.